Hello and welcome to India Ideas, the weekly show which comes to you at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time each Thursday with key picks from the science and tech innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in India. I'm Gautam Roy. Each week we pick a facet or sector from the Indian startup sphere which has something exciting going on with it. There have been some remarkable developments in the autonomous mobility space of late in the nation, and that is our showcase this time around. Well, there's no dearth of people in the country and abroad who, if you mention autonomous mobility in India to them, simply scoff at that prospect. They say, autonomous mobility in India? Self-driving cars? Forget about it. The infrastructure isn't really there, road discipline is poor, and the policy is ambiguous. And yet, there are autonomous vehicle or AV startups in India, apart from bigger tech and auto companies, which are doing some really exciting work in the area with their brain, blood, sweat and money. So, where does India stand when we have companies like Elon Musk's Tesla knocking on our door with the prospect of setting up an AV and battery plant here? Let's talk about it with Gagandeep Rihal, co-founder and CEO of Minus Zero, which has recently claimed that it's the first Indian startup to launch a fully autonomous vehicle in the country with its nature-inspired AI. Sanjeev Sharma, founder and CEO of Swayat Robots, which says it's the first company in the world to demonstrate autonomous vehicles on Indian roads, and recently it conducted a successful off-road autonomous driving demo as well. We have Pranab Manpuria, founder and CEO of Flux Auto, which says it has been working with since 2017 to build autonomous vehicle technology for commercial and industrial applications in India. They worked on such solutions ranging from warehousing to trucking to farming. And we also have Gomti Sankar, head industrial camera business unit Econ Systems, which says it's India's leading OEM camera solution provider with a wide global footprint. Welcome to you all. Let's start with you, Gagan. Congrats first of all on your recent launch of the Z-Pod. Now, what exactly are nature-inspired AI and true vision autonomy, and what are their advantages compared to other autonomous mobility solutions?
Right. Thanks a lot for having me here. I think I would really like to reiterate on the very point you mentioned initially. When you use the word autonomous vehicles, people always say, okay, in India, it's impossible. And the very reason is the AI or the algorithms, or you can call machine intelligence, is still far away from what a human mind is capable of doing. Driving in India and Bangalore in Delhi is a child's play for any person, but AI is still far off. And if you see why human mind is able to drive in India, not all the machines and all, the reason is driving becomes tough for that subset when suddenly things start becoming unpredictable. Comparatively, unpredictableness is lesser in West. It is comparatively easier in India. That unpredictability is way more higher. That's where it becomes more and more tricky. So I've been working for past 6 years at the intersection of neuroscience and AI. And I would not like to say Minus Zero is primarily an AV company. We like to call ourselves as an AI company first. And our core IP, when you say nature-inspired AI, that has been the outcome of those years of R&D. How we can really mitigate the gap between human intelligence and the machine intelligence. How we can make the AI systems more generalized, allow it to adapt to all kind of domains, all kind of terrains, making it agnostic to vehicle form factor, allowing it to run only on cameras. And that is what nature-inspired AI proposes. And primarily what we believe, it's not just built, AV is just a solution that harnesses its powers.
Okay.
Its ultimate goal is to advance the industry in the pursuit of artificial general intelligence. That is the holy grail of the entire AI. And that is nature-inspired AI allowed us to demonstrate autonomous vehicles using only cameras. When we say this vehicle didn't have an IMU or feedback sensors, it only took feedback from visual sensors. A lot of people have been doing with the vision-only approach, removing LiDARs, removing HD maps. We removed IMUs, we removed GPS RTK. One of the things we have been working on, how we can achieve visual positioning system.
Okay.
The same way you are able to drive only using eyes, nothing else. That is exactly what we demonstrated.
Okay, sounds great. Now, Sanjeev, Swayat Robos has been demonstrating its autonomous mobility tech for several years now. Recently, I believe you also demoed off-roading capabilities at human speeds, which would have applications in defense. Now, how is your overall tech different from such technology being developed elsewhere as well? What is its scope?
Sure. Jai Shri Ram, everyone. So thanks for having me here. So as you have mentioned, like over the past few years, like we have been developing autonomous driving technology, right? So if you look at the global autonomous driving landscape, like there are like major sort of gaps when it comes to safety, sustainable scalability, as well as the cost effectiveness of autonomous driving. For example, like one of the major gaps that we are trying to fill with our technology is the safety aspect of autonomous driving. So this is where we have been venturing into several different areas of theoretical computer science and applied mathematics, and we have been inventing algorithms that are able to deal with kind of the chaos that you see in the Indian traffic dynamics. For example, India happens to be one of the most difficult of the environments when it comes to autonomous vehicles, both in terms of the complexity of traffic dynamics as well as in terms of the way the environments are structured, or you can say the way the environments are structured. So what we have been working on, number one, like one is we are addressing safety. So that is where we have been developing novel algorithmic frameworks using primarily researching into applied mathematics and several different areas of theoretical CS, most predominantly reinforcement learning, which is going to be one of the emerging areas in 2020 sort of 4 and 25, where like we'll have another paradigm shift, just like deep learning had a paradigm shift over the classical machine learning approach. So since you also like furthermore, like we have been developing, if you look at our demos like way back in like 2017, we demoed like world's first multi-agent reinforcement learning system to enable autonomous driving on very chaotic kind of road kind of scenarios. And that demo was done using only 2 forward-facing cameras. There was no other company at that point in time who were thinking in using reinforcement learning in the context of autonomous driving. So this is what differentiates the research that we have been doing in Swayat versus the research that is being done elsewhere. If you look at perception research, mostly like we have been developing, the research ambition of the company has been to develop technology that can enable perception for autonomous vehicle using only off-the-shelf cameras. But when it comes to off-road autonomous driving, as you have indicated that we have recently done off-road autonomous driving, we have been using both a mix of cameras and lidars, because when we look at off-road autonomous driving, it has huge application in defense sector, and that's where you have to address the safety criticality as well as like various redundancy of autonomous vehicle. So if you like, there's a racer program being going on in the United States, where the goal is to demonstrate autonomous driving at human-driven speeds off-roads. And in January and April of this year, we were able to showcase autonomous driving off-road at human-driven speed. So this is roughly like, this will tell the scale and the magnitude of the research that we have been doing. One more area that we have been researching on, and I have given sort of a talk at NVIDIA GTC as well as the United Nations in 2020, where we have been like one of the 4 companies in the world where we have the capability to enable autonomous driving without requiring high definition, high fidelity maps of the environment. Okay. For example, like some of the competitors in this area that we have is like Wayve in the UK, which is actually taking similar approach to what we have been taking through reinforcement learning. Then you will see like Mobileye as well as Helm AI in the US, and maybe like sort of like one more startup in the US that has been able to showcase this ability. So being able to address safety, cost effectiveness, and the sustainable scalability by making the mass redundant is what differentiates us from the other startups who are working sort of in autonomous technology.
Sounds great. Now, Pranav, Flux Auto seems to be applying its autonomous mobility to tech in a wide range of use cases, from roads to warehouses to farm fields as well. I found the night mode video to be quite fascinating, but you've also demoed trucks being driven on Indian roads at decent speeds. Now, what sort of a prospect or future do you envision for Flux Auto?
Yeah, thanks. So when we started off in 2017, our focus was to build these autonomous trucking solutions. And we did develop a lot of that. We did, like you say, do a lot of testing and demonstrations at higher speeds on public highways in India, which, as everyone has said, it's really challenging. If you can drive in India, you can really drive anywhere. But because of all the chaos that comes with our roadways. But about 2 years ago, we realized that there were a lot of challenges around this sort of outdoor autonomy. From a technical standpoint, the technology has to be developed a lot further, which a lot of companies are, of course, working on. There was a lot of operational challenges and, of course, regulatory hurdles. So keeping those in mind, we decided to focus our energies towards something that we could deploy quicker, that we could commercialize quicker. And we focused our efforts towards warehousing, which we see as a massive market around the world. And any goods that have to be bought or moved, ultimately they end up at a warehouse. So our focus is to automate the handling and movement of cargo, pallets, goods within a warehouse from when it enters to when it's processed, stored, and then when finally it leaves the warehouse again. So that's the warehousing side where we're focusing most of our efforts. And then farming, as you can see, I think that again is a great opportunity, not only in India, but around the world again. Where we can automate a lot of these operations. Farmer can be sitting somewhere else. He just hits a button through an app, and then the tractor just continues operating, doing skip passing, handling implements, stopping for objects, as you're going to see in a few seconds. So I think our focus is towards getting to market quickly, commercializing this quickly, and deploying with clients. And that's what has been our focus. While some other companies are focusing on the technology side of it, further developing that, and then other applications, we felt like this was a better plan of action for us.
Okay, sounds great. Now, Gomti, I believe even -0 is an Econ Systems client, so your tech and products have a wide range of applications across industries. Now, when do you think we'll see autonomous mobility coming into its own in India?
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for having me here. Yes, -0 is our customer and partner. We are enabling machines to see and understand the world better. We are coming up with more camera products for autonomous vehicles. When I say autonomous vehicles, it is not just the one, we are seeing it on the road. We have indoor robotics that are used for warehouse automation, outdoor delivery robots that serve food and groceries, autonomous tractors that are used for smart farming, weed detection, bug detection. So, and also we are making fully automotive cameras that goes into products like Z-Power from -0 and commercial vehicles. The complete product, the camera products, whatever we make is completely designed and manufactured within India, and we are shipping it all over the world. On your question, we are already seeing a lot of movement in India. We are seeing a lot of companies who are making robots which are fully autonomous on a controlled environment, like warehouse automation kind of environments, or even in the airports. The robots are running in the controlled environment now. Soon we are going to see a lot of these robots outside the controlled environments. For the outdoor, already Indian Tier 1 companies have started providing level 1 autonomous features with their cars and large vehicles.
Yes.
Soon we are going to see a lot of autonomous vehicles in controlled environments and also outside that.
Sounds great, sounds great. Now, Gagan, now that -0 has shown what it's capable of doing, where do you go from here in terms of monetizing all your hard work? What are the prospects in India and what are the prospects abroad?
Right. So I think it's really important to understand when you talk about AVs, it's not a system that you have taken an idea from the West and building it for India. It's still an unsolved problem in the West. That 1% where their roads become chaotic, that is where we see all these reports of accidents and all happening, AVs giving a bad light to the industry. Now, but one thing we really need to understand, when any disruption happens, it's not just the technology that evolves. You're also the country, the economy has to evolve alongside. That includes the ecosystem, the
Correct.
consumer mindset. I think that is how, which maybe countries like US and UK have already covered. I think in India it's still a starting point, because like you said, if you were to go 3-4 years back, which like my fellow panelists might also have encountered, a lot of people believed, is it really possible in India? Is the consumer really ready? Okay, let's say you have the technology. So I think that's why there's an adoption journey that has to evolve.
I think the price point will be important for the consumer as well.
Right. But I think it's important to understand this is not a technology that is being built in India for India. AV is one of those technologies, like India might have missed a semiconductor boom way back in years, but right now it's a point India can become a mobility superpower if we, once we crack the AV problem statement in this industry as a whole. Now there is a lot of adoption journey one can imagine, either going through ADAS features, which
Yes.
Mahindra XUV 700 recently demonstrated. And right now we have garnered interest from almost all OEMs across India and globe, because the traditional ADAS systems are not really India specific, and also the price points, they couldn't really cater to basically the vehicles which are usually sold at the largest in countries like India or emerging markets. And the other ways which we have already started promoting is, starting with every kind of closed geofence campus, let's say tech parks, theme parks, airports, roads which are geofenced where comparatively regulatory hindrances are less. But I think on the side road, we have also started working very exclusively with the regulatory stakeholders, ARAI, ICAT, all these government bodies, being a part in framing the regulations, and also working with all the government stakeholders. Right now, also, I'm in Delhi only for this event that is going to happen, with the ministry and all showcasing our technology. So I think that's where India is at a good starting point. India has been demonstrating, when it's the right time. It doesn't take 10 years to adopt something. When it's right time, it does it in 1, 2, or 3 years. We have in like drones and let's say space sector, nobody believed. I think that is how India works. So,
okay. Okay. And Sanjeev, it's more or less the same question for you as well. You've done over 55 demos of different kinds on road, off-road, etc. But there is a skepticism about autonomous mobility in India, both at the consumer and policy level. How have you guys, who are part of this micro ecosystem in India, because it's really small, plotted the road ahead?
So if you talk about, sort of adoption, like as you can see, like even in like foreign traffic dynamics, foreign conditions, autonomous driving is like one of the most active areas of research. I think one of the most difficult problems of AI of this decade, perhaps the next to come as well, is going to be autonomous driving. So one is like addressing, like as I said, like there are various challenges to making autonomous driving technology sustainable, like the safety, scalability, and the cost effectiveness. So one part of it to make it mass adoptable, to have that penetration in the Indian market, we have to like address those factors that affect the adoption and the sort of adaptability of the autonomous driving, which is like what we have been doing. As I said, like we have been taking several pioneering approaches when it comes to autonomous driving. Like we ventured into reinforcement learning when deep minds of the world were just like at a stage of demoing this area of work in the game of Go, being the world's best player in the game of chess.
Okay.
If we talk about the like sort of adoption of, I think it is going to first, the ADAS system is going to come in India, and that is like we have been preparing to launch.
Yes, it's already here.
Yeah. So that's why like we have been preparing to launch our own ADAS system, meeting the Indian needs. So at this point in time, without naming names, I because of the several NDAs with several OEMs, I cannot name names, but we have known requirement of almost every OEM in the country that has presence over here. And having understood those requirements, what we felt is like, I mean, like oftentimes like you can like bring sort of technology algorithms from abroad, like, but it's not going to work over here.
Okay.
So since we have been a full-fledged autonomous startup, we felt that if we just like reduce sort of the complex the technology architecture that we have built, it would address the needs of most of the OEMs over here. And that is what we demoed on January 1st, where we demoed a reinforcement learning based ADAS system that is able to keep the vehicle on lane and detect, like sort of give forward collision warning using a single forward facing camera. We don't have to go to the extent to develop a system with single forward facing cameras, but that is the research, that's the sort of kind of the capability of the research that we're having. Okay, if it really comes to cost, this is what we can actually deal with. So when it comes to cost, I think that if we can address the cost, scalability, the safety factor, we can sort of make this technology adaptable. And then, like, so second, the government regulations also have to come in. For example, the last change to the act happened in 1988. And there has been no mention of autonomous driving or ADAS system, because in 1988, no one was imagining that autonomous driving or ADAS system would be like prevalent in India.
Correct.
So definitely like government has to make policies around autonomous vehicle, including the accountability. Like, for example, when the accidents happen, like who's accountable? If you look at the state of California, there are like clear-cut guidelines and policies like that autonomous vehicle companies can abide by and have sort of a well-established environment to conduct all these trials. So I think that also will have to go along the way if we talk about the adoption of the technology at large. But ADAS system is going to be definitely an entry point for any startup that's working autonomously in the Indian context.
Sure. Now, Pranav, you've joined us from the US and your company straddles the world from Bengaluru to San Francisco. To what extent then have you explored the market abroad for your AVs, and what are the prospects in India?
Yeah, I think the challenges anyone here is solving is a global challenge. It's not something specific only to India. So the way we look at it is we're building from India for the world, right? So our team majority is based out of Bangalore, but then we have offices in San Francisco and in Houston as well. Our focus is to get the best minds to be able to solve these challenges. When we're talking about clients, there are 3PL companies, there are normal warehousing and logistics companies, both in India, in the US, in Mexico and Canada that we're working with at the moment. So the challenges that a company, say, in Mexico City faces is very similar to someone based out of Bangalore or Delhi. So there are driver shortages, operator shortages, safety concerns, and scalability issues. How do you scale? If you want to open 20 new warehouses, you need to hire hundreds of operators. That becomes a challenge. So post-COVID, this challenge has only gotten worse. So even though India is a country where there are sufficient people, and we are still facing that challenge where there are not sufficient operators. So we feel like our core strengths, the benefits we offer are very meaningful, not only for clients in India, but around the world as well. And that's how we're looking at it. So we've set up our US operations last year to address just this challenge. We're working with one of the world's largest retailers right now to deploy with them first. And if that goes well, then of course, they have a global presence, and we'd be looking at deploying with them globally. Again, our focus is to deploy this and commercialize this as quickly as possible, and then focus on other applications like in the tractor space and in some other exciting verticals that we have some interest in as well. But certainly there is demand on a global scale, and like the other panelists mentioned, cost is really important, not only for India but around the world as well. And building a cost-effective solution, that's something that we're able to do by being by building it out of India. So we're able to build a technology that is equal to or in some cases better than some of the other companies around the world, but at a very cost-effective rate, and I think that gives us an edge.
Wonderful. Now, Gomti, as an OEM, it would bode well for your business econ systems if more such startups come up in the country. Autonomous mobility goes beyond the roads to the deep waters and the skies as well. Now, how are those domains being catered to in the country at the moment by the ecosystem?
Yeah, so we know what it takes to build such product. We have been providing cameras for customers who makes delivery drones, delivery robots, ADAS, and even autonomous ships. Yes, our customer are using our camera solutions in a completely autonomous ships. So we have the technology know-how and also the experience in building such products. Not just us, we have companies like Minus Zero who has the proven technology already. The tier 1 vehicles are started to focus on the level 2 autonomy now. We are working with the 2 Indian tier 1 customers already for adding ADAS features in their vehicles. Soon we are going to see a lot of vehicles with autonomous level 2 support, which is what we have even in Tesla today. So India has the complete ecosystem to build such products for the world. So usually we'll be late in the party, but once we started, no one can match our speed.
Okay. Now, Gagan, in terms of funding, Minus Zero is well backed by VCs and the like. But what sort of use cases do you see for your innovation which will help in boosting Minus Zero's revenue as well?
Definitely, I think the very purpose of doing this demo, the launch, this Z-Day was, to showcase the scenarios and the use cases that we are ready for. And definitely after demo, we already have got a lot of interest. So one is specifically a very strong interest from all OEMs, not only in India, but also the world for L1, L2, L3 ADAS systems. That is what we have been exploring recently. Then definitely for the Z-Pod, the concept vehicle that we showcase, for the first time the vehicle didn't have a steering wheel at all in the first place. this vehicle included, entire operating system built from ground up in-house, not just the AI algorithms to make it, like Sanjeev had mentioned. Safety is also very critical, and how do you optimize it for different kind of edge devices. So we already got an interest of deployment of over 100 such shuttles from across India, both from private sector and also public-private sector. And in the same case, there are a lot of foreign markets where there are smart city programs where they want to focus on these. I think there are three verticals. It's always one thing is eventual that there will be a lot of deployment that is going to happen. It's more of the question of where it happens first, in which geography, in which use case it happens first, because everywhere the pain point becomes a little bit different.
Okay.
Are you solving for cost per mile, or you're solving for the operational efficiency, or you're solving for that sustainability or accidents? I think that changes the thing. And for our side, we are looking at deployment as close to in next basically 1.5 years. Particularly, we have started very aggressively in these geofenced areas, both in public and private sector, and also ADAS system. On the public roads, there is always this regulatory, wherein there is a lot of reporting compliance that has to be done, certain number of million miles, and more stringent regulations that we are actively working towards and compliance. And I think that's where there is maybe in that case, India might not be the first to adopt on public roads, but I think it's a win-win situation in that way.
Yes,
also,
you probably err on the side of
export.
caution.
Yeah.
Now, Sanjeev, in your estimation, will we see autonomous vehicles? Because again, that is the question that really comes to us. Will we see autonomous vehicles on Indian roads being used by people like you and me or others in perhaps within this decade? Is that a possibility? Because there's a scepter of job losses that is also raised in some kind of an Armageddon scenario with AI, generative AI thrown in as well, and those kind of apprehensions.
So from technology standpoint, I think we have already been doing very concrete demos directly on the Indian city roads. It's just a matter of time, maybe next month, you'll see our vehicle navigating in very chaotic traffic scenarios during daytime, perhaps in the city of Bhopal first, and then we'll move to other cities as well. So that's a technology standpoint. If you look at the regulatory standpoint, definitely we would be working very aggressively with the government. And as I mentioned, one of the entry points of this technology is going to be ADAS. And once this technology sort of starts working in ADAS systems, in the form of ADAS system in a vehicle, it is going to have adaptability elsewhere as well. Because if you address those challenges over here, you are essentially addressing the very fundamental challenge on which the entire business model of autonomous driving industry at large relies on. And if you look at the global perspective, this is going to be $5 trillion+ addressable market by 2030. So definitely, no one would like to miss the opportunity. I mean, definitely, it shouldn't be India that misses the opportunity. We would be very aggressively working with the government. So once it takes in, because oftentimes if you talk to OEMs in India, they would ask you what is possible actually, because what they have seen is some ADAS or level 3 autonomous driving technology working on the US or European roads, but they have not seen sort of what is the technology capable of, can deal with the stochasticity, can deal with the scalability and the sustainability factors. So once you have demoed that, and once you take the OEMs as well as government into confidence, definitely a shift is going to happen, and definitely from the job perspective as well. This technology is going to create certain kind of jobs that don't exist today. I mean, let me talk about generative AI, for example. I mean,
we're running out of time. Very quickly, please.
Sure. So people have been talking about that the generative AI is going to kill another set of jobs, but the kind of jobs that it creates in the AI industry and in the data annotation industry is humongously sort of overshadows the previous job opportunities. So even from that point of view, we may be able to take the government and the regulatory into confidence and have the mass adoption of the technology in India and perhaps take it elsewhere as well globally.
Okay, all the best to you. Let's see which way it goes. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me and talking about this technology, which is very exciting. People have some apprehensions about it as well, but I'm sure India will choose the best path for itself in the coming years. That's all we have for the moment in this edition of India Ideas. Do let us know how you felt about the program, and for all the latest, keep watching DD India.